Good morning, traders and market participants. I'm Erica Trina, your host from Sen Securities. It's a pleasure to be with you today to discuss one of the most significant events in modern financial history, the launch of the euro in 1999. For those of you who have been in the forex markets for some time, you'll remember this was not just a new currency being introduced, it was a seismic shift in how we understood and interacted with global currencies. It redefined the landscape of currency trading, opened new opportunities, and brought with it a series of challenges and adjustments that we're still navigating today. The launch of the euro, on January 1, 1999, wasn't something that just happened overnight. It was the product of years, even decades, of planning, negotiation, and coordination among European countries. In fact, the very idea of a unified European currency was born out of the ruins of World War II. Europe, devastated by conflict, was looking for ways to promote peace and cooperation. Leaders across the continent realized that economic integration was essential to rebuilding their economies and, more importantly, to preventing future wars. The initial steps toward creating a single currency were rooted in efforts like the European Coal and Steel Community and the European Economic Community, which brought nations together to collaborate on trade and economic issues. But it wasn't until the 1970s, when the volatility of floating exchange rates became apparent, that the idea of a single European currency began to gain real momentum. The European monetary system, which came into effect in 1979, was an early attempt to bring stability to Europe's exchange rates by creating a framework for fixed but adjustable exchange rates between member states. It worked to some extent, but it was clear that a more permanent solution was needed. By the early 1990s, with the signing of the Maastricht Treaty, the vision of a single currency began to take concrete shape. This treaty was a game changer. It set out the roadmap for the creation of the euro and established strict criteria known as the convergence criteria that countries had to meet in order to adopt the new currency. These criteria weren't arbitrary, they were designed to ensure that the economies of member countries were stable and aligned with one another. Inflation had to be kept under control, government debt needed to be limited, and exchange rates had to be maintained within a certain range. These were all prerequisites for joining the new currency union. In essence, Maastricht laid the foundation for the euro, not just as a currency, but as a means to harmonize Europe's diverse economies. So, on January 1, 1999, the euro officially came into existence. Initially, it was used only for electronic transactions, bank transfers, stock market trades, and other forms of financial exchange. For the first 3 years, people in the Eurozone still used their national currencies, francs, marks, lira, and so on for day-to-day transactions. But the exchange rates for these currencies were irrevocably fixed against the euro, which meant the national currencies were essentially placeholders, awaiting full replacement by euro coins and banknotes. From a forex trading perspective, this was a monumental shift. For years, traders had dealt with the complexities of trading multiple European currencies, all subject to different monetary policies, interest rates, and exchange rate regimes. The introduction of the euro simplified this dramatically. 11 countries, Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain effectively merged their currencies into one. The immediate impact was the elimination of exchange rate risk within these countries. In other words, if you were trading or investing across these markets, you no longer had to worry about fluctuations between the French franc and the German mark, for example. Instead, you could focus on the euro, which became the common currency across these economies. The European Central Bank, ECB, was created to manage this new currency, and it was tasked with ensuring price stability across the Eurozone. The ECB's role in setting monetary policy was critical because, for the first time, these countries had ceded control of their individual monetary policies to a central authority. Previously, each country had its own central bank, which controlled interest rates and monetary supply. With the euro, all of this power was centralized in the ECB. This was a huge leap in European integration and one that fundamentally changed how countries managed their economies. For traders, the euro brought both opportunities and challenges. On the one hand, it created a more stable trading environment within Europe. With the elimination of currency risk between member states, traders could engage in cross-border transactions with greater confidence. Businesses that traded between European countries no longer had to hedge against exchange rate fluctuations, and investors could diversify across Eurozone markets more easily. However, the euro also introduced new layers of complexity, particularly for countries that didn't adopt the euro. The UK, for example, chose to retain the British pound, as did Denmark and Sweden. This meant that while much of Europe was operating under a single currency, there were still significant players in the region with their own currencies and monetary policies. For forex traders, this created opportunities for arbitrage and speculation, particularly as the relationship between the euro and other major currencies, such as the British pound and the US dollar, evolved. One of the major benefits of the euro was the transparency it brought to pricing across the eurozone. Suddenly, consumers and businesses could easily compare prices in different countries, knowing that they were dealing with the same currency. This increased competition and was expected to drive prices down, benefiting consumers. For businesses, the euro also made cross-border trade easier and more predictable. With a single currency, companies could plan more effectively and avoid the costs associated with currency conversion and hedging. But while the benefits of the euro were clear, the challenges were also significant. One of the biggest hurdles was the loss of monetary sovereignty for individual countries. Before the euro, if a country faced an economic downturn or a financial crisis, its central bank could adjust interest rates, devalue the currency, or take other measures to stimulate the economy. With the euro, this was no longer an option. Monetary policy was now set by the ECB, and it had to take into account the economic conditions of the entire eurozone, not just one country. This loss of control was a major concern for countries with weaker economies, which could no longer rely on traditional monetary tools to manage economic shocks. In the early years of the euro, this concern was mostly theoretical. The eurozone enjoyed a period of economic growth and stability, and the benefits of the new currency appeared to outweigh the drawbacks. But the global financial crisis of 2008 and the subsequent eurozone debt crisis exposed some of the underlying vulnerabilities of the euro system. Countries like Greece, Ireland, and Portugal, which had accumulated large amounts of debt, found themselves in financial turmoil. Without control over their own monetary policies, they were forced to rely on the ECB and international institutions for bailouts and economic support. The debt crisis was a major test for the euro, and it raised serious questions about the long-term viability of the currency union. Critics argued that the eurozone needed more than just a shared currency, it needed a shared fiscal policy as well. Without the ability to coordinate fiscal policy across the eurozone, it was difficult to manage economic disparities between member states. The stronger economies, like Germany, were able to weather the crisis relatively well, while weaker economies struggled to stay afloat. This imbalance created tensions within the eurozone and led to debates about the future of European integration. Despite these challenges, the euro has endured and remains a key player in the global financial system. It has become the second most widely traded currency in the world, after the US dollar, and is used by millions of people across Europe. For traders, the euro is now a staple of the forex market, providing liquidity and opportunities for speculation and investment. Its introduction fundamentally changed how we trade currencies, and its influence continues to shape global markets today. The transition from national currencies to the euro was completed in 2002, when euro notes and coins were introduced. This was the final phase of the euro's rollout, and it marked the official end of national currencies in the eurozone. The logistics of this transition were enormous. Over 15 billion banknotes and 52 billion coins had to be produced and distributed across the participating countries. People were excited but also anxious about this change. After all, they were saying goodbye to currencies that had been in use for centuries. The transition went surprisingly smoothly. Within just a few months, the euro had replaced national currencies entirely. However, there were some initial concerns about inflation. Many consumers felt that prices had increased with the introduction of the euro, as businesses rounded up prices during the transition. While there was some truth to this perception, studies have shown that the actual impact on inflation was relatively minor in the long run. Looking at the global picture, the euro has become a major reserve currency, held by central banks around the world alongside the US dollar. It plays a crucial role in international trade and finance, and its introduction marked a shift in the balance of global economic power. Central banks now hold a significant portion of their reserves in euros, and the currency is used in a wide range of international transactions. This has bolstered the euro's position as a global currency and cemented its role in the forex markets. As I conclude, I have to outline this: the launch of the euro in 1999 was not just a currency event, it was a fundamental reshaping of Europe's economic and financial structure. For traders, it created new opportunities and challenges, and it continues to be a cornerstone of the forex market today. The euro's journey has been one of both triumph and struggle, but it remains a symbol of European unity and a key player in the global economy. As we look to the future, the euro will no doubt continue to evolve, and for those of us in the markets, it will remain a vital part of the trading landscape. Thank you.